It was the perfect place for an accident.
Mrs. Taylor.
We'd really appreciate you coming down to the station.
These kinds of movies are horror films for men and women that have been in relationships. No lie. And yet we watch them. We watch them because we know these people too well. We know these emotions too well. And we want to see what they would do in those situations. And then we ask ourselves, what would I do? Now, Wilderness is a series that is closely related to the movies like Gone Girl or What Lies Beneath or Double Jeopardy. Thrillers that deal with infidelity, marriage, and revenge. In a series that lasts 6 episodes, the wonder for me is, can they maintain the entertainment value throughout? Now, knowing your reviewer's perspective always helps with determining if it's for you. I like thrillers and I love crime dramas. I do try and stay away from romance stories, especially if they include infidelities, primarily because dudes always either end up in jail or dead. I don't like that vibe out there, okay? But putting aside that horror aspect of it, I'm going to go and actually say that I'm on the fence about this. It's a good genre, but the overtones for it, not in favor of it. So I'm kind of like in the middle of it. So I'm going to go ahead and actually kind of give a balanced review in regards to main and casual viewer alike. So let's see if we'll be left in the wilderness after a 2-episode watch. I know you did. Okay. All right. Anyways, look, I watched the first 2 episodes of brand new content on the streaming services. I watch it so you don't have to. I go and actually determine if it's worth your time. If you like how that sounds, do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe. And now, let me get into this review for you. Wilderness is a psychological crime thriller drama that premiered on Prime Video in September of 2023. It contains 6 episodes that average about 50 minutes each. It's based on the novel by the same name by B.E. Jones, and it stars Jenna Coleman as the loving wife Liv Taylor, Oliver Jackson Cohen as her husband Will Taylor, and Ashley Benson as Cara, Will's co-worker. So here's the storyline that we have for this. British couple Liv and Will seem to have it all. A rock-solid marriage, a glamorous new life in New York, thousands of miles away from their provincial hometown, and they're still young enough to feel that their whole lives are ahead of them, until Liv learns about Will's affair. Heartbreak is swiftly followed by another emotion, fury, when Will proposes a trip around America's epic national parks to give their relationship a fresh start. Liv knows how to get revenge. Wilderness is a twisted love story where a dream holiday and a supposedly happily ever after quickly turns into a living nightmare. Now that you have a little bit more info about the series, let me lay out the expectations that I have for this series. First and foremost, I need characters that are relatable. When you're going to actually get into psychological thrillers, you have to be able to relate it to them. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad. I just have to connect with them on some type of emotional level to understand what they're going through, understand their motivations, and I have to go ahead and actually say, okay, this can happen, this is probable, okay. So make sure that I have relatable characters. Second, validate the actions. We already know that this is going to be a revenge type of film. So with that being the case, you need to go ahead and actually give me reasons to validate that. Are we going over the top in doing what we're doing? Does things make sense? And I understand that emotions can play a part of it, but there still has to be some realism to it. So validate it for me so that I can make it make sense. And then the last aspect of it, because sometimes as a casual viewer, if I'm in the casual note where maybe some things are dragging, you have to keep things moving along. Pace it well so that we can go ahead and actually break up scenes that maybe are a little bit too slow, a little bit dragging, maybe they're not developing the characters. Keep the pacing going. So those are my expectations for this particular series. Now, let's get into the review. In regards to the acting, I like the acting in this show. In a show like this, conveying emotions has to be at the forefront of the characters. There's swings in love, romance, happiness, all that kind of stuff, to hurt, anger, pain. These are things that are at the forefront of why the characters are doing what they're doing. And it's no different here. Now, Coleman as Liv and Jackson Cohen as Will are very convincing in their roles. They play the loving couple well, and when the various issues start to arise in their relationship, they are top-notch at conveying the emotional swings that we're anticipating. They play pretty well off of each other, and the supporting actors acting off of them are done very well. So I'm going to go ahead and actually say the characters are very much relatable, and they're well within our expectations that we anticipate for this type of series. Now, in regards to the storyline, a lot of successful stories of these kinds go back and forth between the present and the past, so we can kind of continuously see what drove the characters to their current state of thoughts. I'm not necessarily sure if that was necessary with this particular story. I think if it was told linearly, I think it would be better. The roller coaster that we kind of get from the pure revenge and hostility to how sweet things were leading up to the infidelity weren't always necessary. They actually took me out of some of the scenes. Like, if you select the scenes well from the past that tell the story of why they fell in love, we'll understand the conflict of the wife later on. The roller coaster that we're put on isn't necessary, and I feel it makes the story here more disjointed. And the pacing just feels weird as we're just given this pendulum swing back and forth between anger, hurt, and pain to joy and happiness and hopefulness, and it's a weird pacing. And I can definitely relate of why Liv does most of what she does, but it doesn't always make sense in the moment. And us getting her voice over kind of makes me think that the storyteller didn't have enough confidence in the scenes that were shot to convey everything that it needs to, so we needed the narration in order to convey the thoughts. And that right there is kind of like one of those things, like if a narration is going to tell you something, it's going to tell you something that either it enhances what's happening on the screen, or it gives you some insight into what the main character is thinking. But the fallacy on that is that if you're not able to go ahead and actually show it to us, I kind of think that goes ahead and actually does a little bit of disservice to the overall story. Overall, I'm going to say that the story is decent, but it's not always well conveyed in this series. Here's some of my other thoughts. The scenes are shot very well here. Cinematography was top-notch, especially outdoor scenes. Everything was done in a very picturesque way. I like that. And that horror aspect that I was talking about earlier came in a few times during the first 2 episodes. There was actually a few times that I found myself talking to the screen, and I don't do that often. Mostly, I'm doing it at the husband for how stupid or oblivious that he was. The reason that this is a horror film for most fellas is because we can always see other dudes' mistakes with their partners, but we're oblivious to our own. So some scary stuff. But I've given you all that kind of stuff. What's my verdict for this particular series? For main target audience members, basically folks that are in love with psychological thrillers, infidelity stories, all that kind of good stuff, I'm going to say watch the first 2 episodes. Now, the story isn't unique. The acting is good, and I'm thinking this would have worked better as a movie instead of a series. I need mains to watch 2 episodes to determine if them dragging out aspects of the story is worth it to you. As I said, the pacing on here is a little bit all over the place. You may very much like the characters enough to watch it all the way out, and I will say this, at the top of episode 2, you're definitely going to be like, oh hell no. So, hopefully that intrigues you to go and actually watch episode 2 if you're a target audience for this. For casuals, I'm going to say watch 1 episode. The first episode gives the vibe of Gone Girl, and as such, that episode is definitely worth your time. And if you like that, you can determine if you want to go forward. If not, I think you'll have still enjoyed enough of that first episode to have felt that it was worth your time. So again, for main target audience members, watch 2 episodes. For casual viewers, watch the first episode. And that's what I have for Wilderness, now showing on Prime Video. Check it out.
If I am such a burden to you, then why are you still with me? Why don't you just leave?
Because you're my wife.
You're supposed to say it because you love me!
You stayed for the entire review. I appreciate you. Do me a favor. Click a like for this if you like this one. You can even watch one of my other videos here. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and actually subscribe. Continue to do this for you to review all these different types of new content out here. But until next time, I'll holler at you. Take care of yourself.